documents to actually show them. If you want to have somebody, well, either Chris or Josh, go and, because if they did it in the real production environment, that's gonna, yeah, I need the documents, but I don't know how to get to the documents.
Just let me know, I can maybe go down.
Yeah, because I don't have email, unless they could put it like on a flash
I
drive.
have an email, is that okay?
Yeah, but how do I get it up on the screen? I need the documents into this computer. I don't have email. I don't have the test environment.
Can I bring you my laptop then? You can work from my laptop and my email?
Yeah, I guess I can just show them during the workshop then.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Then you want me to bring it?
Yeah,
Bring my laptop, right?
yeah, and
Okay.
have a house pulled
All right,
up.
I'll be right back.
All right, thanks. All right, good morning.
Morning.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. Okay, so this is the single-family resident class. Can you guys hear me okay? Better? Okay. So this is, I think, the fourth class we've had. How many of you guys have been here to some of the other classes? Most of you? Does everybody feel comfortable applying for a permit? Somewhat? Okay, so I'll walk you through really quick how to... Closer the better. Can you guys hear me now? Good? Okay. All right. So I'll walk you through a single-family permit, just how to apply. We kind of went through one of these in a previous class, so I'll go really fast just as a refresher. The main point of this class is to go over the documents that you need to submit for single-family residence. So once you get into CSS, click on Apply. Just make sure that you are registered as a contractor with the city and you're signed in as the contractor, because the account that you have in EnerGov links to your license. So if you make another account, it's not going to find your license. You're not going to be able to apply. So go to Apply and search for residential. Okay, and then you can filter out by permits because you want to apply for a permit. And then this is going to be the one that you want. So it is a new residential construction for a single-family home. If you're going to do an addition or a remodel, you would also click on this one, and you'll see further along on the steps here, that's when you would indicate that it's an addition or a remodel. All right, so click on the big white cross to add your address. And the less information you can type in is actually better. So if you were to type out Boulevard, it's not going to find your address. So just do the number and the street name. Click the little checkbox and then click Apply. All right, then you're going to just click Next. All right, so it's going to remind you again that this is a single-family home permit that you're applying for. In your description, just put single-family residence, square feet, job value, and then you'll hit Next. This is going to remind you which contractors have the license to apply. So you need to be a CGC or a CBC, CRC. If you have your subcontractors already, you can go ahead and add them in at this point. Just click on Add Contact. And you can search for your sub either by their license holder's name or by their company. And then just make sure you change the drop down to, if it's your mechanical contractor, just choose the appropriate box. So At some point, you will have to add in your trade subcontractors, whether you do it now or you submit as a subcontractor form later. But before the house can close, you will need all your subs. So that's going to be your mechanical, your plumbing, your roofing, and I'm blanking on the fourth one. What's the fourth one? Mechanical, roof, electrical. Electrical is the fourth one. So mechanical, plumbing, roofing, electrical. All right, so we don't need to have your pool contractor on here, or if you're putting on a fence, they don't have to be on here. They're going to pull their own permits, which we'll see on the parcel record that there are additional permits for the pool or the fence or the well. So they don't have to be on here, but your 4 trades do have to be on your residential permit at some point before the house can close. So it's quicker for us to process if you go ahead and put them in when you apply, but you can submit the subcontractor form later. All right, then you're going to click Next. If you have mastered plans, put your master permit number here. When we process your application, this is what triggers us to give you the master permit discount and to also route that to the appropriate plans examiner. So go ahead and put your master permit number in here. Occupancy type, this is where if you were doing an addition or a remodel, you would put addition or remodel. But if you're applying for a house, it's usually going to be a single family home. Duplexes, you could also do under this permit. Construction type, you only have the one option. Foundation, usually it's going to be a mono or a stem wall. If you have something that's not one of those two, just put NA, and the plans examiners will see on your plans the foundation type that you're doing. Firewall is usually going to be no for a single family house. You might have one for a duplex going up between the 2 sides. If you're doing a house and you have no firewall, just put NA for firewall rating, number of stories, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms. Required elevation is the elevation that the property needs to be on for the flood zone purposes. So we'll say 7 feet. And then the base floor elevation, that goes from the base floor of the living area. So not necessarily the garage or a porch, but it's the base level of the living space. All right, and then you'll pick a roof type. Proposed number of drives is usually going to be 1 because you have 1 driveway for 1 house. The resod frontage, that calculates your stormwater fees, so that's usually going to be like the length of the front of the lot. So we'll say maybe 100 feet. Septic is yes or no. That's saying, do you have city water and sewer, or are you going to have to put in a septic tank? If you do have septic, you are going to need a permit from the Florida Department of Health to put in a septic tank. We will need that septic permit number before we can issue your permit. So if you already have it, go ahead and submit it when you apply, or you'll have to submit it after the reviews are done and we reopen the portal for you. But we're not going to be able to issue it until we have the septic receipt if you're going to be using septic. And then just fill in your water meter information, your electrical information. Flood zone. All right. Living area, this is the actual living area, so garage, any porches, those are separate. Make sure that it does add up to your total square footage, so your math adds up. I'm just going to put in quick numbers here, but you would put in whatever you actually have. Your setbacks. So we do have some basic requirements. I'm going to switch tabs here. These tell you your basic setbacks in general for your property. So if you don't know, this is a good place to start here. And we can also send this document out to everybody that attended today so you have it on hand. It is in the Permit Document Center, but it's kind of hard to find, so I'll send you guys the link after this class. Oops. There we go, there's my tab. And I'm just going to fill in numbers here. These would not be your correct setbacks, but for our purposes, I'm just going to fill that in. All right, so attachments. There is a long list of attachments here that you may or may not need to submit. You are always going to have to submit a scope of work because that's a feature of EnerGov. If you were here in some of the other classes, we've talked about this. You can just upload a white sheet of paper that says scope of work. If you ever have trouble submitting some documents, it's probably because you've never submitted a scope of work before. So we are working on fixing that on the back end, but for now you will have to submit a scope of work. Site plan, you are always going to need. Structural pages, you will always need. Trusses, I'm just going to tell you for sure what you will always need, and then we'll go into more detail on them. Trusses, you're always going to need. Your product approvals, you will always have to have. Energy calcs, you will always have to have. Your survey, your impervious. Health department receipt, that's that septic receipt if you're on septic. Drainage, you always have to have. And your burrowing owl, you always have to have. So I have a quick reference over here on this next page, sorry. Somewhere I have it, there we go. So if you were to apply in person using paper, you've probably seen this form before, but this has another smaller checklist of what you might need if you wanted to have it on hand instead of only when you're starting to apply. So let's get into the details of the documents here. So your site plan. Your site plan needs to show all of your setbacks. You can include your drainage on your site plan, so maybe you'll just have one document instead of two for that. That's fine. If you include your site plan within your structural or architectural pages, that's also fine. Just maybe try to name the file so that we know to look there for your site plan. It needs to show where the house is going to be and all the setbacks. Your site plan does not have to be sealed, digitally sealed at this point in time, but your boundary survey does have to be digitally sealed, and it needs to be done within 1 year. So before you close on the house, eventually you will submit a digitally sealed final survey, which is going to show kind of the final site plan. But for application purposes, it doesn't have to be digitally sealed, just the boundary survey has to be digitally sealed. That's correct, right? Okay. All right, so that's your site plan. Your structural pages, you have the option whether you want to submit your structural as one file and then your architectural as one file, or you can submit them both together as a single file. Then you would just put architectural/structural as your file type. All right, those always have to be digitally sealed. If you do have an architect and an engineer, the architect is going to seal their architectural pages. Your architect is not going to seal the structural pages because they are not the engineer. So if you have both, make sure the right person is sealing the right documents. Usually, if you're going to have two people do it, you might submit them as two different files. But your engineer does need to seal every page of the structural if it's combined with the architectural, or just seal the file if your structural is separate. All right. On your structural plans, most people, it's probably 50-50. Some people include their Florida product approvals within their structural plans on their window door schedule. That's fine. Just make sure that you have the Florida product approval number listed on there. So if you just have like single hung window, sliding glass door on your window door schedule, that's eventually going to be rejected because we do have to have that Florida product approval number. So that can, again, either be within your plans or you can submit that as a separate Excel sheet. You can even use our window door worksheet. We'll take that too. All right. Let's see, going down the list. Your truss layout. Trusses can also be in your structural pages, or they can be a separate file. So your trusses need to be acknowledged by the engineer of record. So whoever's doing your structural plans needs to acknowledge that those trusses are going to work for the plans that they drew up. And your trusses are going to be from your third-party truss supplier. So it's not your roof framing plan. It's specifically from the truss supplier that your engineer is acknowledging. So usually they'll have a stamp on the trusses from the engineer if it's a separate file. If your trusses are included within your structural plans and your engineer has sealed the entire file, then obviously your trusses are, stamped and sealed within that entire file. Okay, I'm going to skip down here to your impervious calculations. Those can also be on your structural pages, or you can submit them separately. We have another worksheet that's specifically for impervious if you want to do it separately. The impervious tells us what % of the property can rainwater not get through into the ground, pretty much. So you have pervious and impervious surfaces. Pervious is water can get through into the soil, into the groundwater. Impervious is pretty much concrete. Water can't get through to the ground. So you can't have more than 60% of your property be impervious. So keep that in mind when you're designing the house and you're filling out your impervious. Okay. So that's the scope of work and your engineering. So again, your engineering, building plans, your site, your truss, your project approvals, and your impervious could all be within your engineering plans, or they could be separate files. We'll take either one. All right, going down to your energy calculations. These, we see a lot of rejections on your energy calculations. It needs to be a full entire set, so not just the placard that you sign. It needs to be every full set. It's about a 30-page document or so. Make sure that the address on your energy calculations matches the address that you're actually applying for, and make sure that they're signed, ideally by the preparer, so whoever is calculating the energy calculations will sign, and then your contractor will also sign and acknowledge that yes, the house will be built according to the preparer's calculations. Ideally, both will sign, so just keep that in mind. Your survey, we talked about, that's your boundary survey. Health department receipt. So if you are on city water and sewer, you don't need to submit a health department receipt. Okay. So your utility hold harmless agreement. That is an optional document, and we actually have a couple of different hold harmless agreements that we use. So there is this specific one here, the utility hold harmless, is for when we are doing an expansion of the utilities into the outskirts of the city. So right now we're expanding into North 1. We're bringing city water and sewer up there. If you're building a house and you're in the North 1 water and sewer area, you are going to need this utility hold harmless agreement. And what that says is that the homeowner acknowledges that yes, city utilities are coming to their property, but they may not be installed by the time the house is completed. We cannot issue the CO on your house if you don't have utilities. So the homeowner either needs to be okay to wait until the utilities are installed, or they're going to have to submit a well application and have well and septic water until the city utilities get out there. So that's what the utility hold harmless agreement is for, and right now that is only for North 1. So if you're not in North 1, you don't have to worry about this. We do have other hold harmless agreements. This also gets confused a lot with the public utility encroachment hold harmless. If you have one of those, you could submit that here as well, but it is not required unless you are actually encroaching into the setbacks of the property. So that's like if you are building your house and you're going to go, I don't know, let's say 4 feet up into the property line. So there's only 4 feet from the edge of the house to your property line. Now you've encroached into the public utility easement and you've put a permanent structure there. So if you're going to do that, and if we approve it, then this agreement says that we are aware that we've built into the public utility and that we'll be responsible, the homeowner and all future homeowners will be responsible for maintaining that structure, and that the city is not responsible for any harm that may come to that structure, even if we need to get back there, attend to the utilities and we have to take that structure down. Does that make sense for everybody? So that's an agreement that you make with us that you're building on there, but you're taking all responsibility for that structure, even if the city were to come in and have to do some work on the utilities. Okay, that has to be recorded with Lee County. That's going to go on the property record for all future homeowners so that they're aware of that. Your other utility hold harmless that we were talking about earlier about the expansion, that does not have to be recorded, because once the utilities are in, future homeowners are good with that. Okay. So that's the hold harmless agreements. Your notice of commencement, that is pretty much always going to be required for a house. If you can upload it at the time of application, that is quicker for all parties involved. We can go ahead and look that over, let you know if anything is missing from it when we process your application. If you wait until your permit has been issued to submit the NOC, that's fine as well, but you're not going to be able to schedule any inspections until we have processed and passed your NOC, and that can take a couple of business days. So on the NOC, what we're looking for is that it's filled out correctly, so you're going to have your address. You always have to have a description of work. If you're going to be putting in a pool, a fence, a well, you can use one NOC for all of those permits as long as the notice of commencement includes those other permits in the scope of work. So I think it's line 2 on your notice of commencement. If you put single family home and all related construction, that's fine. You can use that NOC for your other permits as well. But if you just put single family home and then you try to use this NOC for your pool, we're going to reject it because pool was not included as part of that scope of work. So some people list out pool, well, screen enclosure, but you could also just write all related work as well. We'll take that. If you're going to use the same NOC for your additional permits, you can use the same copy, but you have to submit it for each permit. So if you submit your NOC for the house, you then have to also submit it for the pool, you have to submit it for the fence, and so on. It can be the same copy, so you only have to fill it out once and get it recorded once, but you will have to submit it for each permit. We're not going to go back into your original house permit, download the NOC, and reattach it to every other permit for you. You guys have to upload that. All right? So what else on the NOC? So that's the description of work. You also need to have the homeowner's information listed on there. If your homeowner is an LLC, it would help us out a lot if you could go ahead and attach the SunBiz record to that so that we can see who is authorized to sign for that LLC. A lot of times NOCs will get rejected because we can't confirm that the person that signed it is actually authorized to sign for the LLC. So if you could go ahead and provide us some documentation when you submit that, that would help us out a lot. If you just have a regular homeowner like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, as long as that matches the LIPA record, you don't have to submit any additional documentation. But if you had, for example, Smith LLC and Mr. Brown has signed for Smith LLC, we need to have some kind of paperwork trail that shows that Mr. Brown is authorized to sign. Okay, so then of course the homeowner is going to sign. Your NOC does have to be notarized, and then it does have to be recorded with Lee County. So you're going to physically take this to Lee County, or I think they also have some online recording that they do now. At the top of the NOC, you're going to see a little recording date stamp. All right, I think it's about a $10 fee. After you get it recorded, you have two options. You can either submit the NOC affidavit along with the recorded NOC. And the affidavit pretty much states that, yes, I did really record the NOC on this date. Make sure that whatever date you state matches the date of the recording stamp. Sometimes some people get them mixed up. All right, so you can do that, or you can ask for a certified copy back from the Lee County clerk. When you get a certified copy back, it's going to have a purplish stamp on it, so you'll know it when you see it. Once you have that, you do have to send it back to us. We don't go into the Lee County Clerk records and download it. You have to send that to us. All right, so that's your notice of commencement. And again, this will hold up your inspections if you haven't sent one to us previously. All right, your burrowing owl affidavit, that is required for all houses, whether or not you have burrowing owls or gopher tortoises on site. It is the contractor's responsibility to, go out there, look at the property and see if they see any burrows, if they see any owls or tortoises on site before they fill out the affidavit and send it to us. Also check out the surrounding properties, so any empty lots beside or behind you, check those out as well. These get rejected a lot because it will be indicated that there are no species on site, and then we pull up your property and we see there's a restriction on the property because there's tortoise burrows or owl burrows. And I get a lot of questions of how do I know if they're there or not. Well, you have to go out on site and actually look and see if they're there. So we will let you go ahead and process your application if you don't have the affidavit and if there's no restriction on the property, but we won't release your permit and issue your permit until you have that affidavit. If there are burrowing owls or gopher tortoises on site, we cannot send your application to the plans examiners for review until we have that affidavit. Because when there's a species restriction, it has to go through environmental review. So just make sure you're going out on site and looking to see if those animals are there. Eagle affidavit, that is an optional one. That's if you're in an eagle zone or not. So that kind of goes along with the burrowing owl, except you always have to submit the owl. You don't always have to submit the eagle. The eagle is just if you're within an eagle zone. If you are within an eagle zone, you have very tight timelines, and I think most of you probably know if you're in an eagle zone. So from, I think it's about October through May is eagle nesting season. You cannot build at all during that time period. So that means you pretty much only have the summer to get a house built if you're in an eagle zone. There is an option to have an eagle monitor. I think it's a whole nother permit you have to do with either the state or the federal government. You have like the eagles monitored 24/7 to make sure your construction is not disturbing them. If that's an option, you can contact our environmental reviewer and he'll let you know more details about that. So that's your eagle affidavit. Owner builder, that is not going to apply to any contractor. That is only if you personally own the property and you are personally going to build your own house. So if you guys are all contractors, you're not going to worry about the owner builder affidavit. If there are any homeowners in here, you will have to fill this out, and you will have to submit your entire application in person at the permitting counter. That way we can verify that you are actually the homeowner. We're going to verify your ID, and that protects, the citizens from, a random person building a house on your lot. Okay. Private provider. This is optional. This is if you choose to use a third-party inspection service instead of city inspections. So this will also give you a 33% discount off of the building fees if you're using a private provider for the inspections. You can also use a private provider for your plan review too, but your permit's still going to go through the regular process. Our plans examiners are still going to give it a quick look over, but it is an option to have a private provider review your plans in addition to doing your inspections too. There's a form that you do have to fill out for this. Your homeowner is going to sign it so that they are aware that they're doing a third-party inspection service. And then with the inspections, there are still a handful of city inspections that do have to happen, mostly with your utility and stormwater inspections. Those will still happen, but then everything else, your private provider is going to take care of. At the end of construction, there's a private provider compliance report That's going to be sent to our CO desk. The CO desk is the ones that issued your certificate of occupancy. So when they get this CO request form, make sure that your permit really is complete. Make sure all your subs are attached. Make sure your private provider really has done all the inspections. Make sure any city inspections like your stormwater or your utilities have really been done. And that will save us all time. So that's how the private provider works. And then once the CO desk gets that report, they will work with you to schedule that final inspection. If you're not using a private provider, you'll just schedule your inspections like you would any other permit. It will still go through the CO desk at the end, even if you're not using a private provider, so that they can issue that certificate of occupancy. The only difference is you're going to be calling in more inspections instead of a private provider calling in inspections. All right, last thing, your Seawall affidavit. This is not always required. If you're not on a canal, then you don't need to worry about this. But if you are on a canal, we do need to have a seawall in place at some point. So some contractors go ahead and they put the seawall up before they start building the house. You don't necessarily have to do that. You can start the house before you start the seawall, as long as there is an empty lot on either side so that, construction can still get around the house to build the seawall. And the seawall has to be completed before we will issue the CO on the house. So if you're going to go that route, you do have to submit the affidavit saying that this is your plan, this is what you're going to do. But if you already have the seawall in place, then you don't need to worry about the affidavit. All right, so those are the application documents that you may need. I can also send you guys out some examples. I'll try to send some examples later. I didn't have any on hand with me for this meeting, but you would go ahead and you would attach each one here. Make sure that you change the drop down before you attach. Once you attach, you can't change the drop down. Make sure that you are uploading everything you want us to review at once. Don't click next and don't click submit until you've uploaded everything that you need. Once you submit your permit application, you're not going to be able to upload anything else until we've reviewed it. All right, there's a couple of other documents on here. So, once the permit has been issued, there's some additional documents that you're going to submit. I'm not going to go too deep into these. I'm going to focus more on just applying and the documents that you need for applying. But once your permit has been issued, you will submit the elevation certificate if that's required for your flood zone. Compaction will always be required. Final drainage survey will always be required. Private provider compliance report we talked about. Subcontractors we've also talked about. So you can submit those after the permit's been issued. Revisions. So revisions are different from resubmissions. A revision is when your permit has been issued and you're making a revision to your issued permit. So say some windows were out of stock and you had to go with a different type of window. You're making a revision to your Florida product approvals. That's when you would use the revision letter. It's always required when you're doing a revision. A resubmission is when you are trying to apply for your permit. You don't have your permit yet, and you need to resubmit because something was missing from your original application or something was not up to the building code and you got a rejection comment. So that's what a resubmission is. With a resubmission, you do not need a revision letter. Last thing is extension request. We've had a lot of questions on extensions lately as well. So in the old eTrackIt system, a house permit would automatically kick out 6 months from the last passing on-site inspection. With EnerGov, that is not happening. So if you get one and it's like, hey, I just passed my inspection, my permit did not extend another 6 months, call us and we can take care of that for you. You don't have to submit an extension form. We're not going to charge you for that because it should automatically be kicking out, but it's currently not. Now, you will need an extension request if it's gone 7 months and you haven't passed any inspections. You will need to submit an extension form for that. All right, So, but again, these 9 documents down here, these you are not going to submit when you apply. These are just optional to submit after your permit's been issued. All right. And if you see here that the scope of work says required, it's not going to let me continue until I attach something in here. And if I haven't said it already, all your files do need to be PDF files. EnerGov will not accept anything other than a PDF. I'm just trying to find if I have a PDF here. I do not. Okay, so it's probably not going to let me submit, but we can go ahead to the next steps that you can see. Yeah, so you're probably going to get that error. If you do get that error, it is because your scope of work is not there. But your next step anyway, after your attachments, is that you would review and you'd submit your application. The next step is pretty much just an overview of everything you've typed in, of everything you've attached, kind of like a confirmation, make sure everything's correct there. If it's not, go back and fix it before you hit submit. But at this point, once you attach everything, you would go to step number 6, you'd hit submit, and then it's going to take you probably to your checkout cart to go ahead and pay that deposit. Usually the deposit is around $250 or so, but it is 15% of the total fees, and your initial fee estimate is based off of your square footage of the house. All right, and then once your permit is ready to be issued, the remaining 85% of the fees will be due, and you'll pay at that time. All right, so let me see. So before we go on, a couple of other things about how the single-family home process works. So permitting will receive your application. We'll go through all of your documents, make sure you have everything that you need to have in there. We make sure the addresses match on every single document to the address you're actually applying for. We look to see if the seals are there. And we're pretty much looking to see that, hey, are your impervious calculations on your plans, or did you submit them separately? If you're missing any kind of file, let's say we can't find your impervious, we reject your permit, we send you an email back saying, hey, you're missing your impervious, please upload. All right, so once you have all the documents and it's a complete application form or package, we send that to the plans examiners for review. A house is going to go through about 5 different reviews. It's going to go through planning, building, zoning, customer billing services, that's for your utilities, and stormwater. Sometimes you'll also have an environmental review if you have one of those species on site. So there's a lot of reviews it has to go through, and a lot of different departments that your application is going to go through. Once all the reviews are complete, your application is going to go to the permit coordinators. They're going to look over it and make sure that all 5 or 6 reviewers have completed their review. Then they're going to have to go in and manually adjust the remaining 85% of those fees that you owe based on, are you using a private provider? Are you using mastered plans? And there's a couple of other manual adjustments that they have to do. So once it gets to the permit coordinators, they've adjusted all of your fees. They've made sure all the reviews are complete. They also update all the inspections on your single-family homes. Then they will put a note in the description of your permit that says the permit is released. Then it comes back to the permitting CSRs, and we finally issue your permit. So if you ever see that, hey, all my reviews are approved, just know that there's kind of a hidden review that is still going on in the meantime. So until you get the invoice from the permit coordinators and you see released in the description of your permit line, your permit's not ready yet. We do issue houses daily based on which ones have been paid and which ones are released. So if it's been more than probably a week and you're like, hey, I've paid my fees, the permit's released, all the reviews are approved, give us a call and we'll take care of that for you. But it should be happening daily that we issue the permits that are paid and released. Let's see what else. So yeah, that's the main thing. Are there any questions so far? Yes, go ahead. Save as draft, I would not recommend because we're not entirely sure what happens when you save as draft. You might be able to come back and submit it, but if you try to save it as a draft and you're getting stuck and it's not letting you continue, just start over fresh. We have had that happen to a couple of people where they've saved as a draft and they come back and they're not able to submit. It may still work, but I know for sure that I've heard of it not working. I haven't heard for sure that it will work. So if you try it, just know that you might have to redo it later. Yes.
Is there any benefit to using a third-party plan reviewer?
Somewhat. So if you use a third-party plan reviewer, they should be comparing your plans to the building code, so they can kind of go ahead and maybe work out any kinks in your building plans before our plans examiners see it. Because once it gets to our plans examiners, they're going to review it to the building code as well. A lot of rejections happen at that point because some things aren't up to code. So your third-party private provider could go ahead and kind of eliminate some of those rejections that might happen down the road.
And secondly, how long does it take for all those 5 processes of the different steps?
Yeah.
Of the plan process? So total time, how long?
Yeah. So there's a Florida state statute that from the time of a complete application, we have 30 business days to either reject or issue your permit. So that means 30 business days for all of those reviews to happen. We kind of, so remember how I said there's kind of that hidden review? So that hidden review also falls within that 30 business days because the permit coordinators are the ones that tell the permitting CSRs, hey, this permit is either rejected or is good to issue. So all of this from the time that we get a complete application, all the files are there, all the addresses are correct, that's when your 30 days starts ticking. And it's 30 business days, not 30 calendar days. Okay?
But the average has been taking longer than 30 days.
Yes, I know. We have been understaffed and EnerGov has been a challenge. But I do have some good news. As of this week, we are current on single-family new applications. So if you submitted one yesterday, I don't know if anybody did, but it should have hopefully gone into review yesterday as well. So that's the good news. So we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting better about turning those around on the day. Resubmits and revisions we're still working on, but if you have a new application, it should be getting into review right away, and we're going to try to maintain that going forward. There's a question back there, yeah. Yes, they can also be on the site plan too. No, but I might, if you can, put impervious and site in the file name. That will help flag it to us so that we're not spending 20 minutes. Where are the impervious? We don't want to reject. So try to flag that to us any way you can. Yes.
Question. I know you guys are going through a lot of upgrades right now. Is this process going to change in the near future, or are we looking at this going forward?
We are looking at this going forward. So we are tweaking this application a little bit. So these steps that you're going to go through, we are tweaking it slightly so that it's more streamlined for you guys. It might also ask for some more information up front instead of, trying to put it into your plans. But for the most part, yes, we are staying with EnerGov. These are the steps you're going to take to apply for a permit. There's another question, yes.
At the beginning, when you were showing adding the subcontractors,
Yeah.
does that save them any step, or do they still have to attach to our permit?
So once you add the subcontractor to your permit, they should be able to see it and they shouldn't have to take any other steps. But when we review your permit application for completeness, we do check your subcontractor's licenses. So if their license is on hold, we're going to delete your subcontractor out because we can't have an unlicensed contractor on your permit. And then you would have to submit a subcontractor form later on. But we're not going to reject your permit for your subcontractors. We'll still get it in review, but you won't be able to close on your house until they're all there. Yes. Yeah.
So it's clear that the new stuff is
Yep, yep, yeah, yep. Mm-hmm, on new stuff, yep. Yeah, so now that we've got new stuff in a good place, we've kind of got that train going. So now the efforts we had diverted to the new permits, we're now diverting to the resubmits and revisions to get those caught up. So our plan is to maintain, now that we've got it caught up, it should take less manpower to maintain it current, and we can put more manpower on resubmits and revisions to get that up to current. And then once we're current, it's much easier to maintain. So that's the plan. Yes. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you guys for attending. Hold on, let me get her and then I'll get you. Yeah.
I know like we've been having like fair share of problems with
Mhm.
CSS, just all of a sudden saying task
Yep.
canceled, error,
Yep.
and it happens multiple times throughout
Yep.
the day for like hours almost is what
Yep.
it feels like.
Yep.
What's happening now?
So when it's happening to you guys, when the system is slow, we call it spinning. When it happens to you, it's happening to us too. We're not entirely sure what is causing it, but when it happens, we notify our IT team and they kind of reset the system. We have some ideas of how to fix it, so it's not going to stay slow like this forever. So there is a plan to get it back up to speed so it's not crashing on you guys for hours and for us too. But for the short term, it is going to be like this for a little bit, but they are working on a plan to get it faster. Yeah. All right, back to you.
So let's say we submit a permit, hit review and submit,
Mm-hmm.
and we realize that, oh shoot, we missed a couple of pages on the energy calcs, let's say.
Yep.
There's nothing that we can do until you guys actually reject it. Is that correct? Or
For the most part, yeah, because so if you see that's the case, if you see that your reviews have not started yet, so let me go back to the dashboard and show you what I'm talking about. But if you see the reviews haven't started, you can call us, and if it's a minor thing, we can open the portal for you to upload right then. But once we've already sent it for review, it's already gone through our system, and we can't take it out of the system to reattach that. So you would have to wait, and you can see now the system's being slow. But as soon as you know, try to contact us right away, and it just kind of depends if we've processed your permit yet or not. So right now we're current, so you're gonna have to like kind of be within a few minutes to get to us, get a hold of us, and upload that. The best thing to do is to call our permitting line. You might have to wait on hold for a little bit, but eventually you will get through to somebody, and just explain, hey, I just submitted my application like a few minutes ago, hasn't gone into review yet. Can you toggle the permit so I can upload this really quick? And just make sure that you upload it right then, because we may toggle it for you, but then, later in the day, we've already reviewed it and sent it off, and then you're out of luck again.
so there's no way you could reject it immediately, let's say. Realizing that we're going to be rejected, is there anything, a workaround
Yeah.
you can do and say, hey, let's just boom, reject it immediately?
Yeah, we can't reject. So it might be that we would get your applications and we would see, hey, you've submitted one page of your e-calcs. There should be at least 30 pages. We would go ahead and reject it when we process it, but our CSRs don't reject for building code. So we're pretty much looking to see, are the addresses right? Are the file types right? Do you have, like in general, yes, that looks like a site plan. We look at the e-calcs and say, yeah, it looks like you have all of your pages, but we're not going through page by page to verify. So if it's something obvious, we would go ahead and reject, but if it's like one page is missing, we're probably not going to catch that, and it's going to go to the plans examiners. But they will go ahead and review your whole application for the building code. So even if it's going to be rejected for that one page of the e-calcs, you at least get feedback on everything else on your plans too, so you can resubmit everything together. Yes.
With the attachments, like with the final survey, final elevation, flow report, like
Mhm.
close it, so you can't until that's reviewed.
Yep.
Is that permanent or is that?
Yeah, that's, I think that's permanent. I don't think we can change that or turn that off on the back end. So if you do have like your elevations ready to go and you know that tomorrow your final survey is going to be ready, hold off and submit them together tomorrow. And that's going to be quicker than uploading on one day, and then you're going to have to wait for us to turn that around before you can upload again.
And what's the expected turnaround time for those?
Yep, so we aim for 3 to 5 business days on blower door test, compactions, final surveys, and elevation certificates on those 4 specifically. We aim for 3 to 5 days, so if it's been longer than 5 business days, give us a call and we can check on that. We might be outside that time frame right now, but our goal is to get everything caught up as soon as we can.
Would that be the
Yeah.
same for
Revisions,
revisions?
revisions, our ideal is more like 10 business days. So if it's been longer than that, give us a call, but we're working on getting that caught up too.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
Another question, on the application itself, the description field,
Yes.
I'd like to use it to put like homeowner information or the
Mhm.
name of the project,
Yep.
but it kind of gets typed over. So
Okay.
other notes will show up.
Yeah. We use the description field for like internal communications too.
Right.
I can talk with the team and just let them know, but I can't make any guarantees that it's never going to be ever written because the description can get pretty long.
Right.
But if there's something like that, you could always put that as part of your scope of work, but I'm guessing you kind of want to see it as like a
I'd like to
quick
see it
glance.
right up
Yeah,
front.
okay.
Plus, it makes it easier for guys in the field.
Yeah, to know.
If they're looking at
Yep.
it, they know exactly where they are.
Yeah,
There's a blank project name field.
yeah.
You're just kind of waiting.
Yeah,
to be
the
used.
project name field, that's that doesn't really work right now. But I'll give the team the feedback. Now, we will always put private provider and master first thing in the description. So you'll see that first, but I'll let them know to try not to delete out additional information after that. All right, yep.
So, 2 questions, sorry. Whenever you upload or resolve something, do you automatically open the portal so it resolves a step for us to have to contact you all to open it?
We should be toggling the portal every time we go in there so that you guys can upload again later. Sometimes, it gets missed because
Oh, so
we're
it's like a
human.
manual,
It
it's not
is a
automatic.
manual thing,
Okay.
yeah, it's not automatic. It'd be nice if it was automatic, but it is a manual thing. So every time we process something, we do try to toggle it so you can upload like an extension later on. But now if your permit is going through review, we are going to leave the toggle off because we don't want you to upload additional documents as those reviews come in. We can't take resubmissions piecemeal.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then my second question was, I have like my own situations where I email and my email doesn't go to the right place.
Okay.
Or it's not getting answered by the right person
Yep.
or whatever have you. Is there like a Cliff Note version
Of
that
who
you
to
can
contact?
send out
Yeah.
that says this department at this
Yeah.
email handles these questions.
Okay.
These people handle this, so that way it goes to the right department and eliminates a lot of the in-between.
Yeah, I can try to do that.
I mean, you guys have contact lists,
Yeah.
but I mean,
You don't know who
just
does
in
what,
general.
yeah. Yeah, so I would say if you have any questions on why your permit was rejected, email whoever your plans examiner was, or you can call them. They can give you more detailed information because they know the building code. You could call or email permitting, but we're only going to be able to read you the comments because we don't know the code like they know the code.
It's not really for like rejections.
Yeah.
It's more so for like figuring out where your revision is at.
Where the
when you
revision
submit
is,
it,
yep.
Like, whenever you did submit it.
Yep.
And then it's
Mhm.
in
Yep.
between, whatever it is, but it's been like a month.
Yeah.
So it's like, a lot of the in-between just,
Okay.
I don't wanna email the wrong
Yeah.
person and annoy you guys.
Yeah.
And you guys don't wanna answer, I just
Yeah.
wanna get a response.
Yeah. So if your permit has, from the time it's in review until the time the permit, the status goes to approved. So if it's in review, in between to approved, you're going to email the permit coordinators because they manage the review process. They're kind of like the project managers of your permit. So they could tell you, hey, yeah, I've sent it to stormwater, but I'll give them another nudge. It's been, a month. Or, hey, yeah, we do need to release the fees on this. We'll add that to the list. Or they might tell you, well, it was just released yesterday. Give us a little more time to manually adjust your fees.
Okay, cause that's actually good, cause I don't, the permits email,
Yeah.
it's inundated.
It
So
is,
it's like,
yeah.
when do you have
Yep.
to email that we're emailing the permit coordinator?
Yep.
It's such a great idea.
Yep. I would use the permits email more if you need to upload something and you're not able to. So you can email your document as a last resort. Try to call us first and get us to toggle it because that's going to be better and more efficient. But yeah, the permits email address is pretty inundated. So if you do have a quick question, calling is probably going to get you a quicker response in general. If it's something like, I'm new to the area and I'm trying to apply for a house and, over the next couple of years, if you have more time on something, I would say email if you can wait on a response. But if you need a more urgent response, call the permitting line and they can always transfer you to the right person. Yep.
All right, thank you, I appreciate
Yep.
that.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have two things. Going back to talking about saving drafts.
Yep.
We do it all the time.
You do, and you haven't had any issues? Okay.
We've saved all the way up to adding the document.
Mm-hmm.
And saved it and then gone back in to
Okay.
add more documents and we've still been able to submit. We've not had any problem.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah. So,
And because it saves time.
yeah. Yeah.
My question is on the permit application itself.
Mm-hmm.
We have a home that we're getting ready to submit for permitting, and it has two different roof types on it.
Okay.
So how do I do that?
I think you can select both boxes. If it won't let you select both, you might want to put other or NA and then just type in the description. But the plans examiners will also see that on your plans too.
Okay.
All right. We do also have Mark here, who is a plans examiner. If you guys did have any deeper building code questions, there's one other thing I wanted to show you guys. So this is a very in-depth checklist of kind of the more technical information that your plans need to have. It goes more into kind of like what's required from the building code perspective. I'll email this to you guys. It's on our permit document center too, but it's also kind of hard to find. So this is probably good for your engineer to have. It's very, very in-depth. And if you have any questions on this, you can contact Mark or a plans examiner and they can help walk you through it. All right, any other questions? If you have like a specific issue you need to show either Mark or me, we'll be up at the front. Otherwise, you guys are free to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.